Hello and welcome this evening to the Munster Bovine webinar. We're here to discuss the role of sex semen this breeding season on your farm. As we know, sex semen has become very topical over the last few years, and its usage within Ireland has probably doubled year on year up until this year. That said, not everybody is using sex semen at the moment, and some people are still sitting on the fence about it. This webinar is to help guide you through some of those concerns about using sex semen, and also to talk about which bulls currently available sexed. My name is John Tobin. I am Sales and Advisory Manager here at Munster Bovine, and for this evening's webinar, I will be chairing, or I'll be your host, and we will have two presenters. The first presenter will be Fíona Dunne. She's our Dairy and Beef Programme Manager, and she will take us through the bulls that we have on offer this season. Followed after that is Dennis Howard. He's our technical manager, and he'll take us through sex semen. He'll cover three main points, which will be the timing of AI, so the use of AI. When do you serve the cow? He'll cover that. He'll cover the handling of AI sex semen on farm and what needs to be done there, and also then cow selection, which cow to choose for sex semen to optimize conception rate. We will have a chat box there, so throw any questions you may have into the chat box, and we will answer the questions all together in one go at the end. So without further ado, we will get the ball rolling. And Fíona, you just come on there. So Fíona, you're happy to take it away?
I am indeed. Thanks, John. So I'll just share my screen here. Now, will you just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Yeah, perfect. Okay, great.
Thumbs up.
So now, hi everybody, and welcome to our webinar here. So we're going to be discussing sex semen. So ultimately, I'm going to be showcasing some of our super sires that we have available sexed for this season. So just to give you a quick link to, if you want to download our latest pamphlet. So this, if you go into our download section of the website, and then here you'll see our latest pamphlet. So that's based on the March proof from ICBF. So that has all the updated figures. So I'm going to talk about all the panels that we have available on our bulls. So first of all, we're going to kick it off with the target 500 to 600 milk solids panel. So this year we had loads of bulls to choose from. So we decided to split it up by the maintenance sub-index. So the maintenance sub-index, it gives you an indication of the mature live weight of the dams. So it's based on mid-lactation, third lactation dams. So here you'll be able to see this panel here has a maintenance sub-index of 6 on average. So that equates to about a 610 kg mature live weight dam. Okay, so this panel is all about driving production, increasing your milk kgs. So on average, the panel has 158 kgs of milk, 32 kgs of solids. We're maintaining fertility, and it has really good components there as well, 0.21 fat percent, 0.14 protein percent. So that's just an introduction to the panel, and now we're going to feature some bulls. So the first bull to feature here is Denman. So Denman is he's one of our really good choices for driving on solids and maintaining high percentages. So you'll see that he has 39 kgs of solids there. He's 0.32 for fat percent, 0.14 for protein percent. And as well as that, you can see that we have an easy calving icon here. So that just shows you that he's easy calving for heifers, and he's available 4M Ultra Plus sexed. His production is really consistent as well with his maternal line. Both his dam and his grand dam are averaging about 630 kgs of milk solids and 3.75% protein. So really good production here back in this bull. The next bull then in the panel that will feature, we'll go down to the bottom. So this is Neely. So Neely is has a maintenance sub-index of 8, so we would expect the progeny to be about 600 kgs mature live weight. And Neely also features in our strength panel, so he's really good for breeding robust, strong cows. So his angularity score is negative, which means he's a bit rounder. He's got a wide chest width, so he's positive for chest width. He's shorter for stature, so he's negative there. As in shorter, and ultimately breeding really good robust animals. And his percentages here: 0.19 for fat, 0.18 for protein percent, so really consistent components. 158 kgs of milk and 33 kgs of solids, so driving on production then for him. Then the next part of this panel is, as I said before, we've split the panel up into a low maintenance sub-index group, and now we're on to the high maintenance sub-index group. So a higher maintenance sub-index means the animals are going to be a lighter or lower mature live weight. So on average, this panel here is 19 for the maintenance sub-index. So that's just the maintenance sub-index there. And that equates to about 550 kgs mature live weight. And then ultimately, we're still driving production, so 162 kgs for milk, we're 33 kgs for solids on average, 0.2 for fat percent, and 0.15 for protein percent. So ultimately, driving milk production, increasing solids, and keeping up those percentages as well. So the first bull we're going to feature in this panel is Red Sky. So Red Sky, Red Sky is a red and white sire. So if you mate him to another red and white dam, the progeny will all be red and white. And he's a super bull, so 365 for EBI. He's also has really good production: 171 kgs for milk, 31 kgs for solids, 0.16 for fat, 0.15 for protein. So a really good all-rounder, and his fertility there is 166 for the sub-index. So really balanced bull there, driving production, maintaining fertility, and he's also available for Ultra Plus sexed as well. So then the final bull here we're going to discuss is Nifty. So Nifty has a €302 EBI. He's got great production again: 139 for milk kgs, 35 kgs for solids. So really, really increasing those solids: 0.25 for fat percent and 0.17 for protein percent. So he's another bull as well that features in our strength panel that I'll go through later on. And so he's really good for breeding robust, strong animals that maintain condition. His dam in her second lactation did almost 600 kgs of milk solids as well, and 3.77% protein. So there's really good production here back in this bull, and he's available for Ultra Plus sex too. So now we'll move on to our super grazer black and white. So this panel is super for components, so really good for increasing your percentages, whilst we're maintaining the milk solids as well, and we're kind of aiming for an animal that's maintaining milk production to a national average. So don't be scared of the minus value for milk kgs. This is based off the base cow, which is 6,044 kgs for milk. So the -6 is still over the 6,000 kgs of milk mark. Like we did with the target 500 to 600 group, we've split this panel into two based on the maintenance sub-index. So we're going to go through the low maintenance sub-index group first. And on average, you see this panel here has a maintenance sub-index of 7 on average, which equates to about 605 kgs mature live weight. So again, that's third lactation, mid lactation live weight. And you can see that the average of the panel is 0.3 for fat percent, 0.23 for protein percent. So we're really driving those components. And the body condition score here is positive. So these bulls are all really good for maintaining condition then as well. So the first bull we're going to feature, this is Ornate. So ornate is a super choice for herds who want to, say, reduce their milk kg slightly, but also maintain size. So you'll notice that his maintenance subindex is -1. So his mature live weight of, if he's mated to an equivalent dam, would be about 635 kgs body weight. Or he's really suitable for a herd if you want to kind of increase the size of the heifers coming out. If they've gotten too small, you want a bit more size into them. This is a super bull for picking. And you'll see that his components there, 0.4% for fat, 0.26% for protein. These are excellent components. He's 27 kgs for solids as well, and he's the -137 kgs for milk. And his dam has completed 10 lactations and averaged 4.14% protein and over 550 kgs of milk solids across the 10 lactations. So really good production back in this bull, and he's available for Ultra Plus.
He's a serious bull, hey?
Unbelievable.
Like the dam, I think third lactation did 700 milk solids from 7,500 litres. Like, that's phenomenal. So
Yeah.
like it's 4.24 protein, 5.08 fat, which you would associate with a cow doing 5.5, which would be very good going, because usually people say drop the litre to get the percentages. But he's up at 7,500, like, that's a black and white animal. Like,
yeah,
it is serious. And then like
serious.
But the granddam then did what? I think about 9 or 10 lactations as well.
Yeah.
On that side, and then you look at Seville, sire by Seville, and you go back 4 generations with Seville. You're going back over 30 years, like that is serious. You're going back to 92. Like, he came
And
back
Seville
Cork.
was our he was our number one sire there last year.
He was, and he was not proven, and he was probably still 100 EBI points below our highest EBI bull. But people really liked him.
Yeah.
And there's longevity in that side too, so it's just smashing. But like, there is big demand for him. There's lots of stock in him. I'd say if he didn't have the stock, he would have been sold out long ago. But he's an exceptional bull.
He is.
Yeah. I'll let you carry on. Go on.
So now we are going on to Froden. So Froden here is a fantastic choice if you're really trying to push the limits of your percentages. So you'll notice he's 0.3% for fat and he's 0.23% for protein. And we're still keeping up those solids. So 32 kgs for solids. For milk solids, then his milk kgs are 7. So you're still around national average, over 6,000 kgs of milk there with this bull. He's available sexed as well, and he comes from a VG88 dam who averaged over 7,000 kgs of milk across 4 lactations, 604 kgs milk solids on average across the 4 lactations. So again, really good production back in the bull. And his lower maintenance subindex there of 6 means that the progeny would be about 610 kgs mature live weight. And that's considering the bull is only half the story. So that's taking it that the bull would be mated to a dam of a similar size. But if you want to increase the size of your animals, he's another ideal choice. Then we have Diaz here. So Diaz is one of the bulls with, say, the higher milk solids here at 34 kgs. Also really high components, 0.32 for fat percentage, 0.22 for protein percent. The milk kgs then 31, so we're still kind of increasing milk a little bit. He's a super balanced bull. So we have production subindex of 118 euro and a fertility subindex of 124. So you can see there's such a good balance there between production and fertility. And his dam averaged 4.14% protein across 3 lactations and was milking just under 7,000 kgs on average. So really good production here as well from the dam. So now we're going to fly through the Super Grazer high maintenance subindex group. So as I said, the higher the maintenance subindex, the lighter the animal. So a maintenance subindex here of on average 18 for the panel means that the animals are going to be averaging about 550 kgs mature live weight. And we're still keeping the ethos that we want to improve the components. So on average 0.3 for fat percent, 0.2 for protein percent from this panel, and we're still hitting the 31 kgs of milk solids, and we're just over the national average there, 33 kgs for milk as well. So the first bull we're going to feature here is Milton. So Milton's a super pedigree bull. He's an all-rounder, so again, balanced for fertility, production. He's 16 kgs for milk, 33 kgs for solids, and then those percentages, 0.32 for fat, 0.23 for protein percent. I mean, really good production here. And he comes from an outcross pedigree as well, so he's sired by Nart, and his dam averaged over 4% protein and over 6,200 kgs of milk across 4 lactations. So that's what our average production was across those 4 lactations. His EBI is 358, so all the bulls really are high EBI, but it's about picking the bulls that are really good for production, will maintain the fertility within your herd, that will drive on profitability. And he's available sexed for Ultra Plus. So then the next bull here we're going to feature is Pistol. So Pistol is another great choice, 335 euros for the EBI, and he's got great components, high solids, so 34 kgs of milk solids, 0.34 for fat, 0.18 for protein. So Pistol's dam averaged over 4.09% protein across 6 lactations. So really good production, longevity within the herd. And our most recent lactation, she did 560 kgs of milk solids. The grand dam then milked for 10 lactations, averaging over 5,650 kgs of milk. So really good survivability within this herd, and production backing it. And he's available for Ultra Plus as well. So the next bull then is Mozart. So Mozart is has an EBI of 323. He comes from a VG85 dam and a VG88 grand dam. His dam averaged 7,500 kgs of milk and did 3.92% protein and over 640 kgs of milk solids across 4 lactations. So really good production again behind this bull. You'll notice that he has the easy calving symbol as well, so he's suitable for heifers if you want to use him. He's available sexed, and he's from a different pedigree as well, so he's sired by Scorpion there. His maintenance sub-index then again is 16 here, so we'd be expecting his progeny to be about 570 kgs mature live weight. So the next panel we're going to go through is our strength panel. So I only picked a few panels to feature here today, just with taking time into account. So this is strength panel. This is a really, really popular panel to go to because people just want to breed robust, strong heifers that will last in the herd. And I'm just going to give you an introduction to 4 traits here.
I suppose, Fíona, that's probably in the back of, people are breeding more for percentages, and they think then they have to go to a smaller cow. And then on the back of that, they're scared that smaller means they're losing the shape, really, innit? So this is kind of where, right, let's have a little bit of everything. Let's have a win-win here. Have a bit of a smaller cow, slightly smaller, doesn't have to be tiny. Get your percentages, but hold that strength within that cow.
Absolutely, yeah. Now we've designed this panel based on feedback from herd owners because that's what they were really after: robustness in the herd and still keeping up the production. So the 4 traits that I'm going to go through that all of these bulls have. So the first one is angularity. So I have the minus symbol here. We want that to be a minus figure. So you'll notice they're all minus in the panel for angularity. So that just means they're a bit more round. Body condition score, we want that to be positive because we want them to maintain condition. Stature then, so I have a negative here again. So stature is just, we want them to be a bit shorter. So that's why we want a negative value. And chest width then, we want it to be positive, so a bit wider across the front. So they're the 4 traits here, and on average you see that all of the bulls on average are hitting that trend. So they're really good for breeding robust dams. And the bulls we're going to feature here, the first one is Blandford. So Blandford is a pedigree bull who makes a super addition to the panel for increasing components. He's 0.3% for fat and 0.22% for protein, and he has 29 kgs of solids. His milk production there is -11. That doesn't mean he doesn't have any milk though. That's still hitting over 6,000 kgs of milk. His maintenance sub-index is 12, so his progeny you'd be expecting them to be about 580 kgs in live weight, smaller in height, but they have power in the chest and they're more round. And he's available for Ultra Plus as well and has an EBI of 345. So we're still driving on EBI and driving on the overall genetic merit of the herd. And the last bull in this panel we have is Lunasa. So Lunasa was an extremely popular bull last year, and that popularity is definitely continuing into this year. He's from VG88 dam who averaged 3.94% protein and 660 kgs of milk solids across 8 lactations. So that was her average production across the 8 lactations. And a maternal grand dam who averaged almost 530 kgs of milk solids across 9 lactations. So there's no doubt why he's in the top 5% for survival. There's such longevity there within the pedigree. And he has an EBI of 390, as well as really good percentages there. He's 0.26 for fat percent, 0.2 for protein percent, really good solids, good milk production. He's a super bull for increasing the strength of the calf crop with a smaller stature, wider chest, more roundness and more robustness of the progeny. And he's available sex then as well.
Perfect. Oh, nice bull, eh?
Yeah, really good. And
yeah, lots of lactations, like in the dam and the grand dam, and something like that's coming across from you there, Fíona, is you like a bull with a good cow behind it, don't you?
I like her to stick around. Yeah, absolutely. That's it. Yeah, we need to back the genetics by the performance as well.
Mm.
And then the final panel that we'll go through today then is the pedigree production and confirmation. So this panel is based on really driving production up more milk kgs. So on average, this panel was doing 440 kgs of milk, 42 kgs of milk solids, and 23 for the health sub-index. And all of these bulls then in the panel, when you look down at it, they're all over 1 for overall type. They're all over 1 for udder score as well. And these tend to be the larger animals. So they have a lower maintenance sub-index, meaning they're kind of heavier as well. And the panel there features bulls from our own National Cattle Breeding Centre, NCBC. So that's our own breeding programme. We have the agencies for ABS, CMEX and CRV as well. So you'll see bulls featured across the panel. So the first bull we will feature is Hailstone. So this bull is flying out this year. He's an exceptional sire from ABS. He's from the Cosmopolitan family. He has an EBI of 263, high milk production. So we're talking about 352 kgs for milk, alongside 46 kgs for milk solids, 0.22 for fat, 0.11% for protein. So really good for breeding medium-sized cows with great udders. And he's over 2 for overall type. He's 2.32 for overall udder and 1.41 for feet and legs. So really good type and linear scores here. And his maintenance sub-index then is -7. So he's breeding cows that are about 670 kgs. But then that also depends on the dam that you're mating him with. And then you like this bull, don't you, John?
Yeah, he's a seller. Yeah, I like him. Him. But farmers like him, more importantly. Farmers really do like him, yeah.
Yeah. And sorry, I should say Hailstone is available sexed. And then the final bull here is Napa Valley. So Napa Valley is a really, really top-notch. It goes with his pedigree name. He's a CMEX sire. He's all-rounder, boasting over 2 for overall type, udder score, and feet and legs. So exceptional scores there. He's a high production bull with 383 kgs for milk, 43 kgs of solids. He's maintaining components, so driving those components there, 0.17 for fat, 0.09% for protein, and also keeping up the fertility sub-index. So his fertility sub-index is 91 euro, and overall EBI of 239. So another excellent sire. And I should say that across all of the panels, apart from we have G1s in their own panels, but across all of the panels, we don't feature any G1 bulls. So G1s are our young test bulls. They're going out for the first season. They don't have any conception rate data or calving records data. So within all of our panels that are our main panels, except for the G1, all of our bulls are proven for conception rates, proven for calving records. So we're really, really confident that not only are we going to be delivering the highest genetics to your herd, but we'll also be delivering conception rates. And ultimately, we all want to get the cow and calf.
Yeah, perfect. And I suppose thanks very much, Daphne. No, Napa Valley, I was just going to mention, he has good fats here in Ireland and he's good fats in the US as well. And he's good for milk and speed as well and body condition score. So there's lots to add there. But thank you for that, Fíona. That is a taste of some of the bulls you have there. You have over 40 bulls, as you see. Fíona's just touched on some of them and she's eaten up 25 minutes of a 1 hour webinar. So, you have to limit the lady because she'll talk bulls all night if you let her. But thank you very much for doing that, Fíona. We'll do the Q's and A's at the end. So Dennis, if you're ready there, we'll jump on there, and Dennis is just going to take us through sex semen and the protocols around usage. Ready to go there, Dennis?
Hey John, you can hear me? You can?
I sure can.
See me hopefully, and can you see my screen? More importantly,
I can.
Perfect. Very good. So good evening, everybody, and it's great to see such a good crowd on tonight. So let's go back to the start of this presentation. That was the first thing. So I'm going to talk about sex semen, a little bit about the science behind it and why it's a little bit different, and then we'll speak about some of the advice and about stacking the odds really in your favor as regards getting the best possible results from it. So I'm going to draw your attention here to my little infographic here on the right for a start, and go back to a little bit of school biology. So on the right here, you can see my pointer there, John. You can see the mouse? Yeah. So this is the egg here on the right. So we're going to talk about the sperm and the egg. So this is the egg, and the egg carries an X chromosome. And then sperm cells, they can either 50-50, they can either carry the X chromosome or the Y chromosome. So if a Y chromosome fertilizes a Y sperm, or a female, or a Y chromosome sperm fertilizes the egg, you're going to get a male calf. And if an X chromosome sperm fertilizes the egg, you're going to get a female calf. So the whole thing with sex semen is the technology is able to sort the semen with 90% accuracy. So you can see your 10 sperm cells here, 9 of them are X, so they're going to produce a female calf, and you have one Y floating around here. So that's the 90% purity. So you're really, I suppose, you're changing biology, but you're going to get the odds are 90% chance that you're going to get a female calf. And I'll talk a little bit more about it later on, but the basis behind this technology is there's a picture here of an X chromosome and a Y chromosome at the bottom. So the X is slightly bigger and carries 5% more DNA, and that allows the technology to actually differentiate between the X and the Y chromosome. So we'll come back to that as we go along. So I suppose why use sex semen and what are the advantages? So the big one from a dairy point of view is you can breed replacements from your better cows and your better heifers. And if you're going to do that, you're going to be more selective about your breeding and you're going to increase your genetic gain. So if you look at it, with conventional semen, you're going to need 4 to 4.5 straws to produce a heifer. With sex semen, depending on the fertility of the herd and whether it is heifers or cows you're using it on, you're going to need 2 to 2.5 straws to produce a heifer. So because you're using less straws, it allows you to be more selective. And then obviously by doing that, if 90% of the calves born to sex semen are going to be female, you're going to reduce the dairy male calf being born on the farm. And then the other big advantage is because you're breeding your replacements from fewer cows, you're able to use more beef semen from the start. So you're going to increase the value of your non-replacement calf crops, so your beef calves, and you can really use a selection of sires from the start, whether it is Charlie, Limousine, Belgian Blue, more the traditional breeds like Angus and Herefords. So a more saleable, more attractive beef calf crop. And then because you're using your replacement sex straws early in the breeding season, you're going to end up with your replacements born more compactly. And this is really attractive. It makes management easier. So you have a nice compact bunch of heifer calves. They're going to be easier managed. They're going to be easier to get up to the target weight the following breeding season, and hopefully ready for sex semen again the following year. But I suppose the butt is that we need to maintain a high 6-week calving rate. And we know from trial work here in Ireland and in Moore Park with Stephen Butler that all things being equal, sex semen, the relative conception rate in a couple of trials in the last number of years was about 80%. So, but I think, and I'm going to talk a good bit about it, that if we can stack the odds in the favour of sex semen, we can actually close that gap and actually maintain our 6-week calving rate. And I suppose just briefly, why is the 6-week calving rate so important? So our whole competitive advantage in Ireland really is our ability to make use of the grazed grass. And to do that, we need to calve compactly in the spring and get our long days at grass and match our herd's feed requirement to pasture growth. So that means calving compactly in the spring, and that means conceiving, having a compact breeding season, and cows going calf compactly. So look, if a cow calves in mid-February and she's dried off before Christmas, in mid-December, she's going to get her full lactation of 305 days. If she's calving mid-April, you're knocking 60 days off that lactation if she's going to be dried off in mid-December. So our 6-week calving rate, we have to maintain that. So this is a picture then of the Semen Lab up in NCBC. So NCBC is owned by Progressive Genetics and Munster Bovine. So last year, Sexing Technologies set up a lab in Moore Park, and the product last year was Sext Ultra 4M. So I suppose this year, with the growing demand for sex semen, we actually opened our own lab up in NCBC. So it's run by the same company, Sexing Technologies. So it's the same company run both labs, and the name of the product this year is Sext Ultra Plus. So the plus means that, I suppose the name of the product, you can actually get 2 million, 3 million or 4 million cells in the straw, depending on what you order. And I suppose the big thing with Munster this year is we took the decision that every straw actually would have 4 million sperm cells in the straw. So I'll just talk you through these couple of pictures. So this is a picture of one of the sexing machines. So there's 15 of these above in the lab up in NCBC. So if we look on the left here, that the little vial here is the ejaculate, and you can see the color that the dye is in it. So the dye actually is taken up by the DNA inside in the sperm cells. And as I mentioned before in the first slide, the X chromosome, so the female sperm cell, takes up more dye, and that allows the computer then to identify the male versus the female sperm cell. So then it goes through this thing called a flow cytometer that lines up the sperm cells in a line, and they pass down past the laser, and the technology is able to put a charge, depending on whether it identifies it as male or female. It puts a charge on the cell. And if we go over here to the right, then the best way to describe this is like a drafting gate at the bottom. So there's a charge on these plates. So in this scenario, the charge is turned on here on the plate on the left, and it's actually pulling the little line, you can't really see it there, of female sorted sperm cells into this vial here. So it's hard to believe, but there's over 30,000 sperm cells per second past the laser, and is able to pick them off and put a charge in them. So it takes 30 seconds to make about 1 million cells, a minute to make 2 million, and 2 minutes to make 4 million. And I suppose the big thing as regards stacking the odds in your favor, one big thing is the decision to put the 4 million cells in the straw. So it obviously is a bit more expensive and it takes a bit more time, but we do prioritize fertility just as much as genetics. And the other thing Fíona mentioned it already is we just sex bulls that are above average with their conception rate. And the other thing is we don't sex the G1 bulls. So the young G1 bulls that Fíona spoke about there, we don't sex those bulls because we don't have any information about their ability to put cows in calf. So that's the technology. So look, I'll just go back to the slide actually. So I suppose the best way to there's a couple of things about this then. So this whole process takes about 8 hours. So that is there's a little bit of stress involved there on the sperm cells because they're in that foil, they're going through the machine for 8 hours. But the other thing that happens then, because they're in this special medium, which mimics the uterus of the cow, they actually go through this process called capacitation. So capacitation is a process sperm cells have to go through to actually be able to fertilize the egg. So they have gone through that. So they're actually ready to go. So when conventional semen goes into the cow, it takes about 8 hours for it to capacitate before it can fertilize the egg. Whereas sex semen is actually after going through that, and it's ready to go straight away. So the best way I think to think about it, it's like a professional hurlers or footballers or rugby players, they do a warm-up. So the sex semen is doing a warm-up, but it's doing quite a long warm-up. So it is ready to go. It's going to play a great first half, but it's probably going to run out of steam a bit for the second half. Whereas conventional semen...
is this cock hurling you're talking about now, Dennis, is it?
Well, it didn't Kilkenny hurling last Sunday anyway, John, we're talking about. But,
I was talking about last Sunday 2 weeks anyway, yeah.
Yeah. But, so look, they're after going through that warm-up, they're ready to go, but they've probably done a bit too long of a warm-up, to be honest. So they're going to run out of steam a little quicker. And that really comes into play then when we're talking about the timing. So I'm going to talk about three things here really then, when it comes to stacking the odds in your favor then as regards what you're doing as the herd owner. So I suppose the first thing is because it's a bit more fragile, the sex product, we need to be a bit more careful about how we handle it. So that goes right through from all the semen handling, making sure it's under liquid nitrogen. But then when you're actually going to use it, it needs to be thawed in a D-scale flask. So that's a big thing for any DIY customers out there to get some descaler products, the likes of ICAL, descale your thawing flask, give it a good rinse out. So we know that lime scale harbors bacteria and we don't want that. And then cool boil water to change the water every day inside in the flask. And then you want fast thawing, so make sure the temperature is right and make sure you have a thermometer to make sure that the flask is doing its job correctly. You want it at 35 to 37 degrees and then for a minimum of 45 seconds. So straight out from the liquid nitrogen straight into the thawing flask, and we want fast thawing for a minimum of 45 seconds. We want to bring as many of them back to life as possible. The next thing then is have your gun pre-warmed and dry your straw, load it up, and then keep it warm, keep it down your back until you get to the cow. And then really you want, it's different to conventional semen, you want it inside the cow within 5 minutes and really concentrate on the placement and the hygiene getting into the cow. I suppose, look, a word about our own team of 160 Munster bovine technicians. Obviously, they're well versed in semen handling and especially sex semen handling, and they do a super job. And look, we know, or I know from the figures anyway, that they do really inject fertility with their high conception rate into the herds that they're working in. So that's the semen handling and the insemination part. So hygiene, making sure the semen is thawed out correctly and into the cow quickly and maintain the temperature until you get into the cow. Hygiene and good semen placement inside the cow.
I suppose then it's like if you go back there on point 3, if you're in a habit of loading the gun with your conventional semen and then you're going into the ring or into the yard and you're throwing the cows into the crush then, that game is over. You have to have the cows in the crush before you have get the semen ready, really.
I think whether you're DIY, you're right, John, or technician, your cow needs to be ready. So if the technician is coming in and he's going to tow 2 straws, make sure the 2 cows are in the crush and he can AI them quickly.
You can't spend 2 minutes chasing the cow around the yard, can you?
No. And if you're DIY, make sure your 2 cows are in, you have them identified, or 1 or 2 cows, whichever you're comfortable with. You want to get the straw in as quickly as possible. Yeah. So the next thing then is cow and heifer selection and management. So it's all about stacking the odds in our favor here. Both from our side as an AI company, with making sure we have the best product possible. But then from your side, you want to select healthy, fertile cows. So there's a few little guides here then. So the first thing is that they're calved long enough. So you want them calved a minimum of 50 days and ideally 60 days. So you're talking really about February calved cows. So I suppose the higher your 6-week calving rate is, the more cows that are actually going to be calved long enough to take sex semen. So you want them cycling regularly. So if you're doing a bit of heat detection or you have the technology, brilliant, but you'd like that they're actually cycling regularly. Younger cows we know are more fertile. So your first to fourth lactation cows generally have a higher conception rate. But I would say just watch the heifers. There's been, heifers can struggle a bit this time of year, especially with the weather now the last couple of weeks. So watch those heifers that they've maybe avoid the ones that haven't coated off or are struggling a little bit for body condition. And then body condition is critical. So we're talking 3+ here. So cows that are in nice condition. So calve long enough, healthy and in nice condition. And then they've had no problems at calving, so no difficult calving, no retained afterbirth, and no issues since calving like lameness or mastitis. And the big thing then is that make sure the nutrition is right coming up to breeding and during the breeding season. And a great indicator there is watch the volume in the bull tank and watch the percentage protein and make sure that you're getting the nutrition right. As regards the heifers then, the big thing with the heifers really is that they're above target weight and cycling regularly. So heifers, if they're on their second or even more, the third cycle, they're going to be more fertile. And what really dictates how early they're going to start cycling is if they're on target weight. So I think a great bit of advice at the moment, John, would be actually to go away and weigh your heifers. If you're using sex semen, even now is a good time to weigh your heifers. And if you're 20 days away from breeding and they're going to go out to grass, they're probably going to put on 1 kilo a day. And I see a question in there in the chat already actually about the maintenance, just to go through the maintenance. So I think now is a good time to maybe look at it. So, and Fíona has touched on it, going through the panels. But this is a table here with the maintenance figure, the mature live weight of the cow, and then the target weight at breeding for the heifer. So if we look at a typical maintenance there of about 10, that gives a mature weight of about 590. And the target weight for those heifers is over 350. And that's a minimum weight. It's not an average weight. So I think there's always, go on, John.
Yeah, no, I was just about to say, like the averages is what kill you, because say if your average weight there of 568 kilos cow, right? But you have some cows at 616 and some there at 520. No, that's a massive range. And then you might say to you, sure, my heifers on average are weighing 340 kilos. So on average, they're grand. But your averages will kill you. It'd be like one hand in the fire and the other hand in the freezer. And you're kind of saying, sure, on average, I'm okay. But it doesn't work like that. All heifers will have to be on target.
Yeah. I was just talking to a man today, actually, and he actually went away and weighed the heifers. I was chatting to him today and picked out, he did it about 2 or 3 weeks ago, actually, picked out the ones that are a bit light, separated them and started feeding them. So even now, it's not too late to take action on those. And maybe if they're just struggling for target weight and you're planning to use sex semen, maybe avoid it in the couple that are actually struggling for weight. Still breed them, but maybe they're not the best candidates for sex semen. So I hope that explains the maintenance value there. But the critical message I want to get here really is to make sure your heifers are on target weight. And the third big thing then is the timing of AI. So I suppose this is a little graph at the start here. So we have the start to standing heat. So the cow is starting to stand. And about 28 hours after that, on average, the ovulation happens. So with conventional semen, we can go anywhere here from the start to standing heat all the way up to 12 hours after the end of standing heat. We take it that the standing heat lasts about 8 hours. So conventional semen is going to last inside the cow. But remember, if we go too late, it hasn't gone through that process of capacitation. So anything after that 12 hours, really, our conception rates can drop. Sex semen then, so it's after it's warm up, so it is ready to go, but it's after a long warm up, so it might run out of steam. So that means that we want to go a bit later. So the guidelines at the moment are 14 to 20 hours after the start of standing heat. But I think in reality, if the product is very good, and even some of the research coming with the sync programs and stuff now, that we're probably talking, a bit earlier than that, maybe 10 or 12 hours, and probably slightly later than the 20 hours. So in essence, what it means is we don't want to AI any fresh cows with sex semen. And so we'll say if your technician is coming in at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, we'll say cows from noon the previous day that have started standing, 11 to 12 o'clock the previous day, right up to dusk that night. So cows that were in standing heat the previous day really are suitable for sex semen the following morning. It's not going to last as long, so we need the timing to be closer, and it's already gone through that capacitation, so we can actually take advantage of that and inseminate a little closer to the time of ovulation. So then, I suppose that brings me to synchronization and some of those modern protocols. And the big advantage with synchronization, and I'll just go through some of a couple of the protocols, is it actually overcomes this issue with timing of AI. So there's a couple of protocols up here, and there's slight variations available now just to suit sex semen. So if we look at this 10-day protocol for heifers, and these are up on our website and they're up on our breeding and fertility notes, and chat to your vet about them. But for that 10-day protocol with the 2 shots of GnRH and the 2 shots of PG for cows, so they're getting their GnRH the night before at around 5 p.m. For conventional semen, the guideline is 9 to 1 o'clock the following day. But for sex semen, the guideline is to go that little bit later, so 19 to 22 hours. So you're talking 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, which is an advantage, I think, if you're doing a bunch of cows for sext. Your technician, he's probably going to have more time around that time of day to come back and actually spend the time to do that bunch of cows. So that is an option if you want to use synchronization to do a bunch of cows. For the heifers, then, there's been some great research done in Moore Park or in the Tagish farms the last couple of years, and looking at that 8-day program, so that 8-day fixed time AI program, it's well proven at this stage. But what they actually did was delayed the time of insemination by 8 hours for sex semen. So with half the heifers, they actually brought them in the morning for the treatment, kind of around 9 a.m. on day 5 and day 6 for their PG, and taking out the printer to seeder on day 6. And on day 8, then they came in the morning, 9 a.m. for their shot of GnRH. So with the standard protocol, they would have gotten inseminated at this time. So they divided the heifers in half, and half of them got inseminated in the morning here at 9 o'clock with the shot of GnRH, and the other half of them they delayed the insemination by 8 hours, and they actually got a 9% improvement in conception rate by delaying the time of insemination. So that kind of proves the point about the capacitation, that you can actually go a nice bit closer with the.
Then it's for the rest of us mere mortals here on the webinar. What's that big word there, what's that one?
Oh, capacitation. So that's
the semen is just waking up. It wakes up faster, so it kind of has to be.
So it takes about 8 hours. So when conventional semen goes into the cow, John, it can swim way up to the ovaries, no bother, but it has to go through this maturation process, which gets it ready to actually fertilize the egg. And that takes about 8 hours. So conventional semen has to do that in the cow, or even if a natural service with a bull, it has to happen inside the cow. But with sex semen, because it's in this special medium and the process takes about 8 hours, it actually happens in the laboratory while the semen has been sexed. So that means when sex semen goes into the cow, it's ready to go. Once it gets up there, it's ready to fertilize, which means we can go that bit later with our time of AI. I never describe you as a mere mortal, John.
Fair enough. Just go back on that last slide there, because I had this yesterday. I was at a signpost event yesterday. Like, say when you look at the sex semen there and you have the base in the red box and it's between 19 and 22 hours, you know, like you're saying really it's at 21, say 20 hours or 20 and a half hours. You're kind of being a bit loose. You can go left or right of that. But when you look at that sex semen, you have down there 8 hours. You have to be fairly exact in that. There's no real going 2 hours left or right of that 8 hours if you want the best results.
Oh yeah, well I would say look 4 to 6. Like there is a little bit of leeway. So if it's 8 hours, you're talking, you know, they can't all be inseminated at just exactly the same time. They can't all be injected at exactly the same time. But there's a window here as well. I don't have it down there now, but you're talking 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, you know, that window.
Yeah. But if you're doing maybe 100 heifers, and we'd have cases where lads are doing fixed time AI in 100 heifers, depending on the facilities and the amount of technicians available or you have on that job, or if it's DIY, you want to split that into 2 days maybe, because your window.
you're right. It depends on facilities and it depends on technician power. And I suppose, look, we're lucky that generally the technicians, they team up depending on the size of the job. So if talk about that 100 heifers, generally, the technician that usually works at the farm, he'll probably call a couple of buddies and maybe 3 of them will attack the job, so, and they can rotate in and out, loading guns and inseminating. And that, I suppose the big thing there is it can actually be done in the window. So I suppose dividing the heifers adds complication. It's probably easier manage them as the batch within reason, John, and hopefully the technician power and the organisation is there and the herd owner as regards to facilities and maybe dividing out the heifers by what bull they're getting as well.
So if you're going to go do a big sink job, whether it's heifers or cows, make sure you have the power there to do it, plan and have the power to pull it off. Planning
is absolutely critical. So the first part of that planning is probably contacting your technician and starting with the end in mind, and seeing is the technician power available at the end, working back then on the sync protocol. And something we probably didn't mention then is having the team of bulls. We'll say for that bunch of 100 heifers, you're talking a minimum of 5 bulls anyway. And what's extremely helpful then, if you can divide out the heifers, if possible, by bull, and it just streamlines the whole thing and allows the insemination to be done more efficiently and quicker, which is what you want. Just one other thing then about, because I had a couple of phone calls today from technicians about PRIDs or seeders after going in, or the progesterone device gone in. They were taken out yesterday and today in a couple of bunches of heifers, and about half of them were after being pulled out. So whether the strings weren't cut, but just make sure in heifers to cut those strings, because there's nothing more frustrating than you go and taking out the seeders or the PRIDs on day 6 and half are missing because they're after pulling them out. So make sure that the strings or the cords are cut. So then this is the last slide, John. So look, sex semen, there's huge potential benefits. We went through them at the start, from the more selective breeding, so breeding off your better cows and heifers, having your heifers, calves born compactly at the start, being able to use more beef AI, increasing the value and the attractiveness of your calf crop. So there's huge benefits. But the big thing is we must maintain this high 6-week calving rate. And I suppose from our side of the house, we have a great technician team that have, proven high conception rates. We're putting 4 million cells in the straws, all the straws produced in Moorpark and above an NCBC, and we're picking the bulls, the above average fertility bulls, and avoiding the G1 bulls. So that's, I suppose, our part. We're trying to really stack the odds in your favour. And then from the herd owner point of view, if you're DIY, it is all about the semen handling, the AI procedure, selecting those, making sure those heifers are above target weight, selecting the cows like we spoke about, calve long enough, body condition score, healthy, cycling regularly, having nutrition right. And then the third final bit is the heat detection. So making sure, firstly, that the cow is actually, or the heifer is actually in heat, and then getting the timing right. So avoiding fresh cows or heifers and really AIing cows that are gone off heat. And we just spoke about the role of synchronization that can play there. So another thing, John, is to select enough cows. So like this thing of maybe having 20 straws and selecting 20 cows, that cow may not be, the cows you want the timing may not be right. So select enough cows. So if you have 20 straws, select 30 or 40 cows and make sure the timing is right, because the most important thing is you want to get a pregnancy.
How would you do that, Dennis? How would you pick the cows? What's your criteria? How do you work out?
Look, I suppose the first thing is you have to go through the criteria as regards their fertility, that they're calve long enough, that they've had no issues, their body condition. So that's your first part. And after that, then you're looking at the genetics and their production. So look at their genetics, their EBI, and look at go to the milk recording and avoid the worst of them, avoid the ones that are read in the milk recording, either in the lifetime or the year to date. And so I think if you do that much, you're prioritizing actually getting them in calf, but you're also driving on the genetic gain as well.
Yeah.
The other thing then is we want to use it early in the season. So we don't want to be using it 3-4 weeks into the breeding season. We want to try and get it used in the first couple of weeks. And I would say then for 2023, there's plenty herd owners probably on that used it last year and hopefully got on well. And the feedback last year is that people did get on well. And a lot of people that really followed the advice and followed those criteria actually achieved parity between sexed and conventional. So by stacking the odds in the favor of the cows and heifers that were getting sexed, they actually ended up with the same conception rate with sexed and conventional. So it is possible to bridge that gap. So the big thing this year, if you got on well last year, do the same thing this year. So sometimes success can lead to a bit of complacency. So make sure that you're doing the very same thing as you did last year as regards following the advice. And if you haven't used it, if this is your first year and you're on the fence, I definitely, it's a bit like selective dry cow therapy, start small. I definitely consider using 10 or 20 straws or 10 or 20% of the herd to get a sex straw. Follow the criteria, give it your best shot. Hopefully, and the feedback is that people got on well last year. So, and if you get on well with a small number, that builds confidence to use a bit more maybe into the future.
It does, yeah.
And
it allows you, I suppose, Dennis, to, let you ease yourself into it and let you know what you're getting yourself into to an extent, because, you have to watch the heat detection a bit more careful. You have to get your timing of putting in the semen a bit more. You have to get a bit more accurate. Like, there's a bit of learning to it as well. Like, so I think that piece of try a bit and see how you get on, hey? I think it's worked really well in the past.
Yeah, it has. Yeah. So look, I think the confidence is there, but you need to build your own skill set. If this is your first year using it, build your own skill set first to make sure that you can actually select those cows and you can get the timing right and all the rest. So Fíona mentioned, I suppose, the downloads. So this is our breeding fertility management. So there's a lot of information in that about managing, preparing for the breeding season. A couple of pages on it on sex semen, managing your heifers. The sync programs are there in the back of it. So that's available to download and is probably available through your technician or your breeding advisor as well. They should have them in the cars. So that's me, John.
Those slides you had there to showing the timings of fixed time AI, they're on the back page of that brochure as well, aren't they?
There, so there's actually 4 programs in the back. There's 2 for conventional, 1 for cows, 1 for heifers, and 2 for sexed, 1 for cows, 1 for heifers. Yeah, so we actually broke them down by depending on what you're using.
Yeah. Okay, so look, I suppose that concludes your presentation, Dennis. So thank you very much for that. I think Fíona will be joining us once again there for the questions and answers. If we don't get around to all your questions and answers, because I give out to Fíona for taking 25 minutes, but Dennis, you're after taking a half an hour, so
I didn't. Did I?
You'll definitely be the first one called up to Doreen's office in the morning, and Fíona, you'll get a bit of breathing space.
I thought I was watering well.
So look, we're going to make a stab at these questions and answers. We're probably going to go over time, but look, I won't take it personally if you don't stay on the call or on the webinar. Our sales team, I've asked them, and they've kindly said they'll answer any calls. So if you come off this and you want to ring the sales team, give them a call. Their numbers are there on the back of the catalogues. They'll be happy to help you out as much as you can. But now, look, we'll turn to the questions here. So just give me a second and I open this up. I'm here into it. There we are. All right. So one in here, I don't know if I'm allowed to put names out here or not, but look, I won't name the people. So look, one here. Would you like to keep an eye on maintenance on any minuses for health? Fíona, if I'm picking a bull, minus for health, should I be concerned?
Yeah, it's always good to stay positive. With the health sub index, it now includes TB. So TB was introduced there in November last year, and it shifted some of the bulls. So I would look into it to see if you really like the bull, why is he minus? So some of the bulls have come down because of TB. So if you're in an area that's really affected, then I would stay away from those bulls, because we do have plenty on offer that are positive for TB. But it includes your SEC, your lameness, mastitis, and now TB. So I would keep it in mind, all right. But I'd also dig into the figures. Why is the bull minus for health, and is it TB? Are you affected by it? And should you stay away from a bull like that? So keep it in mind, all right. Yeah, you should always use all the information that's available to you.
Yeah, and I suppose, look, if it's important to you, then go keep it in the positive. No, so
Yeah.
it's different folks, different strokes.
Absolutely.
Just here, could you repeat the explanation for the maintenance? Is the lower the maintenance, the bigger the cow? And just before you answer that, Fíona, I just want to mention on page 4 of our catalogue, of our spring catalogue, on page 4, there's a table there that matches kind of a ready reckoner that will matches the maintenance sub-index to the live rate of the animal. Very similar to what Dennis had there on the screen a minute ago. So if you jump onto you can download it from the website, or we probably already posted it out to you. If you didn't, flick us a text or send us something in chat and we'll get one out to you. But it's there on page 4 of the Dairy Cyrus. But do you want to touch on it again, Fíona?
Yeah, so the maintenance sub-index is kind of a tricky one because it goes against what you would think. So a higher maintenance sub-index is a lighter animal, so a lower body weight, whereas a lower maintenance sub-index is a heavier animal. So if you want to think of it as how much is it going to cost me to maintain these animals. So a higher cost then would be to maintain the animals would be a lower maintenance sub-index value, and a higher maintenance sub-index then costs you less. So you're more profitable in that way.
Yeah.
And if as well, if you want to look at some of the bulls, so look at a Jersey. Jerseys all have really high maintenance sub-index values, so they're very small, whereas your really high type Holstein kind of animal have a much lower maintenance sub-index. They're going to be much heavier. So even if you want to compare types of animals, you'll be able to see the difference there.
Yeah. Fair enough. This one's for you, Dennis. Is thawing the thawing temperature the same for sex as it is for conventional?
It is, yeah. So 35 to 37 degrees, that's the recommendation coming from sexing technologies, but it's the same. It's the same really for sexed and conventional. So the critical thing is if you have an automatic or automatic thawing kit, and they'll usually, they'll go to a temperature and the light will turn, or some of them have the actual temperature. Make sure you have an electronic thermometer or even a conventional thermometer and cross-check it to make sure that it's right, because they can go out of kilter a bit. So make sure that the temperature is right with your thermometer.
Fair enough. Next question. Are other AI companies in Ireland selling G1 sex semen? I like to run my own race here, Munster bovine. I'm not going to comment on what other companies are doing, so I'll just let that pass on. Jump onto Twitter somewhere for that answer. All right. If my technician comes at 9 a.m, Dennis, what time should I observe first standing heat to be suitable for sex?
So if he's coming at 9, or he or she is coming at 9 a.m, so you're going back really to lunchtime the previous day, so kind of 12, 1 o'clock the previous day. If you're out at that stage and you see a cow standing, she's suitable for sex. Equally, after milking, if you're going out after milking at 8 or 9 o'clock, and there's a cow standing or started standing, she's suitable for sex the following morning.
Perfect. Going here now. What price are your sex straws for DIY? So for DIY and for prepaid, they're not starting, but they're averaging about 47 euros, or some of them cheaper or some of them dear, but they're about 47 euros there for, I say, the bulls you've shown there, Fíona, they're all at 47 euros starting price. But look, the lads are there on the line, give them a call and see what the prices are there. What's the best way to select cows? What's the best way to select the best cows? Dennis, you probably touched on that already a little bit. Do you want to just cap it? Because it's very easy to say, sure, look at your records and pick them, but how do you look at your records? How do you search through them?
Yeah, I suppose there's two picking cows here. There's picking the cows that are going to be fertile and actually go on calf and have a high conception rate to sex semen. And then there's the cows that you'd like to breed off, your better cows. So I suppose from my point of view, the priority is to actually select the cows that are going to go on calf, so that are calved long enough in good body condition. So look, you have to go through, I suppose, your records to see the ones that are basically calved in February. Had they any problems? And have a look at their body condition. So that's the first thing, is to actually select the cows that are going to be fertile and have a great chance of going in calf. And then within that subgroup, you're talking about picking the most suitable cows, so the highest DBI But to be honest, the way I look at it, I actually flip it the other way around. I go to the milk recording report and I'd avoid the bottom 20%, because like if you avoid the bottom 20%, I think you're doing a big thing, and using very good bulls, you're going to drive on your genetic gain if you're avoiding your poorest performing cows.
Yeah, and I suppose like a handy thing is if you're picking top 40%, like say third lactation, and as far as they don't, that's probably your herd average. You go above that for production. So then obviously second lactations you have to be above 90%, or first lactations over 75% of what the herd's mature production is, and you're kind of catching production there. I like to try and keep the protein above average, and if you do that, I find when I do that in a herd, I would say you could be, and I actually did one, I think today was about 480 is the herd average. But the herd you're picking the cows off, then that breeding herd within the herd, they're doing about 60 kgs more mixed solids. Now, like there's EBI there, and I try and keep an eye on that. But from say production is important to you, and that's what you really want to drive on. Like you're driving on more production, you're probably pulling through there then 30 kilos more mixed solids than if you just throw it over the herd. And that's what something 6 semen does. But then if you bring that on, you're looking at, say, maybe an extra $2,000 per animal for their lifespan. So you're bringing 20 heifers over their lifetime. So it's $100,000. Like, and that's what the intensity can do. And I think, like, look, bring our team, because it's kind of hard to do it in the webinar. We'll talk to what's important in your herd, but you could really drive real herd improvement in your herd using 6. Because as you said, don't breed from your bottom 20%, but don't breed from your bottom 40%. It's like it's greater again. And in a way, it's nearly your beef straws do more for your dairy herd than any straw at all. When you're able to use more beef you use, the better your herd improvement will be, because you're using less dairy, but you're using them on the best cows. And look, yeah, I get it. You want to use it on your top 40 cows, but you pick your top 60 cows or something, and hopefully those 40 will show up for AI. But it's massive what 6 can do in that. Geez, you could do a whole webinar there on what it does for.
The other thing, John, is if you're AIing your heifers, that's the first thing. If you're AIing them and you're using a good lot of 6 semen, they should be your highest genetic merit animals. They should be your highest EBI animals, and if you're AIing them, you're going to need less straws on your cow herd, and you can be more selective again.
You can, because it's all great picking the best bulls, but you might as well pick the best cows too. Yeah,
have color. If you're looking at your herd, and then pick out, just going back to the maintenance sub-index, if you have a look across, see which are the type of dams and the size of them that you like, just looking at them, and then just have a look on ICBF, do an animal search, look at the maintenance sub-index of those animals, and then you can see that's the kind of maintenance sub-index you want to go for then, to have to breed for the size of your herd, to incorporate the maintenance there.
Yeah, 100%. It's what, like, that 6 semen is, look, it's grand, and there's car problems, and you solve all of that. But the real exciting thing for me is how it can really drive their herd improvement and really put that intensity and get that kind of cow you want. Because, like we spoke earlier, Fíona, here, of that dam, what do we say, 700 milk solids from 7,500 litres. And we're sitting here and we're saying that's phenomenal. Like, it probably won't be me, but somebody be sitting here in a Munster bovine chair in 30, 40, 50 years' time. And that could be very, very close to the norm. Like, when they start doing milk acorns, maybe not here, but I know in some places in the world, in 1918, like 200 pounds, which is what, 100 kgs, 150 kgs of mixed solids, was massive. It was brilliant. Now, it started in 1918. It was a good. I often wondered, those lads came home from World War One and they turned around and did a milk accord, and if you say to me, you're probably better off to stay at the World War One than to get turned around into milk accord. But the point I'm trying to make is, look at those animals. They're gone top animals there doing 150 kgs of mixed solids. In 100 years now, they're going up there. They're hitting 650, 700, and they're really driving on. Like, where we could go, and they didn't have 6 semen. They were relying on bulls. They were relying on a couple of years of daughter approval. So it was a slow job. Like, that intensity that 6 semen could bring to it, can do on selecting your cows, and then you have the genomic intensity. Like, it's going to be massive. And then we're not in a place where everybody knows rearing a load of heifers, and you're taking whatever heifers land on farm because you're expanding the herd. So we're in a place that probably expansion is slowed up an awful lot for a lot of people. So you're tightening that herd. Jesus, I'd be really excited now to see where herds are 10, 15 years time, because it's all these technologies are really going to drive that, regardless of what you're into. If you're into into type, if you're into crossbreeding, whatever you're into, it's really going to drive that herd performance. And it's probably the ability to use more beef because of sex in your herd is really going to drive that. Passionate about that one. I had a rant, Fíona. I know I'm the one that's driving it over. Well, look, we'll drive on. Next one. Have colours an increasing role to play in accurately detecting heat timings, especially for sex straws? Dennis?
Actually, they do. They're falling under the TAMS grant, so there's going to be a lot more colours. And I think the biggest thing with the colours, to be honest, is the labour saving. So if you combine colours with drafting, like the labour saving is huge. Will they do a better job than, I mean, looking at the data, will they do a better job than a very good person heat detecting? Probably not. You know, they still have their limitations, the same as a person has. But the huge thing about them is the labour saving. The fact that they'll keep going for the full breeding season. They'll keep going, you know, Saturdays, Sundays, whether there's a match on or whatever, and combined with drafting, your cows are in the yard there. But I think the better they get, and the more accurately they're going to be able to predict or know when the start of the standing heat happened. Yeah, for sure they have a role to play with the timing of AI for sex semen. Yeah.
Yeah. And like compared to a very, very good guy, they're probably, you know, you're going to be on par. But the good thing about colours, they take an average lad and make him a very, very good guy overnight.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you know.
They do and we can't all be good at everything, no matter how hard we try. Next question here. Why are all sex straws coloured pink?
That's a good question, and I get it quite a bit. And I think, yeah, they're all coloured pink, which doesn't help. I suppose one thing is, you know, it is a sex straw, that you know that they're coloured pink. So I suppose you're going to take more care of them. You're going to keep them in the wood goblet. But as regards selection, trying to find them, it's not a help for sure. So look, the one thing I do is try and use those little white tags, you know, and we certainly use them an awful lot. So, and those little holders that can hold, you know, 10 or 20 straws and have the white tag. So instead of reading the straw, you have the tag. Obviously, you still want to read the straw to make sure when it's thawed out before you load the gun, but at least you have your little tag there. But the question is, or the answer is, I'm not sure, to be honest, why they make them all pink. You know, I would have thought would be a help to change the colours. You know.
Speaking of pink, there, Dennis, might turn on and off your camera there after going pink on us.
That was an interesting timing there, Johnny. And I turned pink myself at the same time.
Fíona, what percentage of G1s don't make it to G2, and why is this? Is it DBIs falling through the floor, or what's going on?
No, not at all. So we analysed. We're probably very critical of our own bulls. So as a G1, they are young test bulls. They're only about 12 months old. So you think about the G1s this year. They were bought back springtime 2022. So they're only about 12 months. They're baby bulls, realistically, and we're expecting a lot of them because the window is so short, because we are such a seasonal system, and we have to get them tested in the spring in order to get enough data on them, enough straws used so that we can be confident in their conception rates in order for them to go into the catalogue the following year. So just to answer your question, we probably test the most G1, so we test about 60 a year, and about 5% wouldn't make it. So you're talking about 3 bulls. But it's not down to EBI, it's more so down to conception rates, because we are pushing them. They are young bulls and they have that small window to prove themselves. Now, that's not saying that all of the bulls that we put out, they've passed QC in the lab, so their semen looks completely perfect in the lab. But that doesn't mean that the bulls will get the cows and calves. So because it is so important in Munster, we have quite a high threshold to get them to G2s, that we will remove any bulls that aren't quite meeting our standards.
Yeah, I suppose it's kind of handy enough there when you have so many G1s in there that, you know, you're not under pressure. Like if you had 20 G1s, you'd be kind of under pressure to hold on to them all and say, geez, I need these because I need something to keep the business going in 3 or 4 years. But when you have 60 there, it allows you to, to be ruthless and take them out. And it's a bit like, hey, it's no different than with your own herd. If you have plenty of replacements coming in, it's easy to be ruthless and take them out. So, no, I think that's a good thing when you have the depth of the size of that G1 pool that we have, pool of G1 bulls that we have.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Is breeding with minus milk bulls breeding the milk out of the cows? Fíona, what are you doing? You're taking all the milk out of the country.
Not at all. Not at all. You have to calm people down when they see a minus. So it's not as bad as it looks. The minus figure is based on the base cow of 6,044, and that's her average across her first 3 lactations. So John, we were talking about it earlier today. Even you were saying that the base cow is 6,500 kgs.
When it hits third lactation, that's third lactation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the third lactation. So you're talking about this minus figure, that third lactation mark 6,500 is the minus. So when we're talking about minus 50 or minus 100, they're still doing over 6,000 kgs of milk. We're in no way breeding milk out of cows at all. But what we are doing is driving up solids, driving up percentages. So driving up really what individuals are being paid for.
Okay.
So you can relax.
Fair enough. Never been a concern of mine, Fíona, I can tell you that much. Fertility dropping when bulls become daughter proven. Why does that happen?
So fertility is a lowly heritable trait, which means that the power or the component, the genetic component controlling that trait is quite low, and that's why it can vary a lot more. So fertility, the likes of calving interval, the heritability of that trait is about 3% in relation to milk production, which is up towards 30-40%. So in comparison to milk production, you'd be more confident in the milk production figures staying kind of stable. And that's why we see kind of fluctuations within the fertility subindex. So by picking your bulls, by going for the production, all of our AI bulls have good fertility. We're in no way not selecting for fertility, but what we ultimately want to do is drive production so that you can pick bulls that have the good production behind them, but also have the fertility there. So that's why there is the fluctuations. It's just a lowly heritable trait.
Okay, fair enough. That's fair. I was going to move on to this one. So are farmers, do you think more farmers are moving towards daughter proven? We're probably not seeing down the point of view of semen sales. The lads are moving towards daughter proven. But do you see that there will be a move back towards daughter proven?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Ultimately, daughter proven is about 20% of our sales, 20-30%. So it is still largely focused on genomics. And genomics has really proven itself as well. On average, the high genomic bulls stay up. You will always see every year a bull born this year is going to be lower than a bull born next year, that we're targeting, because in the dairy business we are constantly looking for the next best thing, the next highest bull, be it for all the various different traits. So that's why genomic bulls are lower as they get older, and then it takes them 4 to 5 years before they can be daughter proven for milk records. And it can take them up to 6-7 years before they're proven for calving interval records, so fertility traits. So it takes quite a long time for bulls to be proven completely, and I don't think we're going to see almost going backwards to daughter proven. I think genomics, everyone seems to be by and large quite happy with genomics and where we're going with the bulls. And the EBI, like we have, in comparison to the indexes that are available worldwide, we have such a good breeding tool, which is the EBI, and it's unbiased. It's the same for everyone regardless of what company you're buying from. So using the EBI, trusting the EBI for the genetics, looking at all the traits. Don't just look at the EBI figure, look at all the traits, and I think we'll continue to make progress. And I think farmers are happy with the genomics of the bulls.
It is, yeah. Yeah, and look, and you mentioned that milk piece. It doesn't move a whole lot. Like, say, if you look there, if you pick the top 4 or 5 bulls there in our daughter proven panel, and you look at the milk going from what they were, say, genomic to what they were proven, I said the kilos of solids you're probably advertised originally would be delivered. There might be percentages going up, percentages going down, and the liters moving left or right. But if you're said you're going to get 25 milk solids, you'd be fairly 10% within that. You'd be fairly pushed to be outside of that. And say if you even kick our bulls and jump into it, you'd see that. Over to you, Dennis, on this one. How many? I'm not sure. Did I ask? How many sex straws per replacement? Say I want 25 replacements. How many sex semen straws do I need?
I suppose a good guide is 2.5. So you have to allow for the purity, which we spoke about earlier on, is 90%, and you have to allow for maybe a slight reduction in conception rate. So I suppose the answer is it depends on the fertility of the herd, and it depends on how much you're using heifers. So like heifers, you're expecting a higher conception rate, so you're probably down to around 2 straws, all going well. The cows are going to be slightly lower, so you're talking about 2.5 straws per heifer.
So 25 heifers, you're on 2 straws then. So yeah, you'd have your 28 in the ground because you're going to get your 2.5 bulls. So that will give you 28. And you're saying then 30 to 50 then for 60% conception rate gets you. That be right? Or would you say 55 straws?
You lost me there with all the figures, John. But look, if you're just say you're using 20 straws in your heifers, you're hoping for 10 heifer calves, 9 or 10 heifer calves. If you're using 20 in your cows, you're going to be slightly less. You're probably down to 7 or 8 heifer calves. So 40 straws combined between the two, you're probably working out at around half. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. It does ask here. The webinar is recorded to watch again. We've recorded it, so it should be out, I suppose. Jonesy inside in production will send you a link with the recording, I suppose, to anyone that has registered. So I'm saying that in the back time soon. She can just email it all out to you. But it will be there available. If it's not there, it'll be to our social media channels or it'll be available on YouTube. Question, I suppose. Here. The question back to you, Fíona. What's more important, kilos of solids or high percentage positive for solids?
I think that we have gotten to the stage where you don't have to decide one or the other. So you can get both solids, high solids and high percentages. So I think both are important, and we've gotten to the stage now where we don't have to choose one or the other.
Yeah, and I suppose if you're getting 30 kgs of mixed solids, say, and you're getting them from high percentages, sure, and there's a better world than if you're getting them just being driven by milk and lower percentages, because you're getting it through less milk price and it costs more to produce those liters.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, and I think you kind of touched on this already, Dennis. How much sex to use in, or much sex semen should you use in year 1?
So starting off, again, depending on and I suppose your 6-week calving rate is going to dictate how many cows are eligible for sex really at the start. So how many cows are calving in February if you're completely spring calving. But I would start, and it's a bit like the analogy with the selective trichotherapy, and I suppose the whole message around that was to start small. Start with 10% or 20% of your cows. So I'd be inclined to do the same with sex semen. So start small, try and follow the advice. Hopefully you get on well and build confidence, So we'll say 100 cow herd, maybe start with 10 or 20 straws and see how you get on if you haven't used it before.
Yeah, okay. Next question over to you, Fíona. Are all bull mothers looked at for correct type and confirmation for high EBI bulls? And I suppose a reason I would ask that question is because we send out the contracts there, but we do that based on figures before we see them, and we really only look at the bulls probably towards near to if we're buying that bull. But
Absolutely. So I suppose the step in the process is initially they're screened for genetics. We want the highest genetics, then we get them genotyped. We want the highest genomic results that come back. And then ultimately when it gets to the stage of buying the bull and purchasing, then the mother is looked at within the herd. So they're always looked at for confirmation and type and how they're performing within the herd. Also within the catalogue, if you are concerned and you want to see what kind of classification scores the dams and the maternal grand dams have of the bulls, if you look at each of the profile pages, you can see the dam's production, the maternal grand dam's production, and beside the name there, it'll give you the classification score of the dams. So if this is really important to you, then you can see what kind of classification, like the ones that I was listing out there, a lot of them were classified, so you can see that as well. And going forward, we're definitely working on increasing the classification scores of the dams too.
Yeah, I suppose we touched on it earlier. The dams are important to you, Fíona.
They are.
They
and
are.
We want them to stay in the herd. So survivability, longevity, being functional within the herd for longer. So that is an important component that we are looking at, and we will continue to.
It's probably a big thing that's going to be down the line, hey, Fíona. Like when you look at the last few years, lots of heifers coming into the herd. Kind of a lot of that's going to slow down now. Herds are going to mature. So while fertility is getting better and cows are lasting longer in their herds because they're getting back in calf, which was probably a barrier 10, 15 years ago, I'm not sure. The next thing is going to be the things like, and that's a really valid question really when you think about it, it's going to be things like others holding, say, lameness, good feet, all that kind of piece. Like that's all going to become more relevant as time comes on because they're going to be the reason cows are going to be culled out, not because they're empty. So we have to manage that if you want bulls to last longer. And again, less replacements coming in. So that means you're just breeding even from the better cows again. And it's all that thing just feeds into it. Like,
I think you're right.
Really
health will almost become the new fertility because you're right. The national herds is getting more fertile. So the next barrier to keeping and holding onto these cows is making sure that they stay sound with feet, cell count, that they're not getting mastitis, and that they're basically staying healthy. And if they're healthy and they're going back in calf, they're going to stay in the herd.
And probably if we had to run this webinar 3 or 4 years ago, we probably wouldn't have got the health question, but it's there now. It's more relevant. Like,
yeah, I think it just shows that people are getting more selective, aren't they? They're getting more tuned into to more individual traits. Yeah.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Like it's like saying, yeah, we chased fertility through the EBI, and lads were kind of happy enough for that got them, and now they're chasing the next thing. So look, we're gone half an hour over, but look, people have stayed on mostly, so that's pretty good. I suppose the key messages here this evening are: you have top quality bulls, sex, they're available, but from the other side of it, when you are using sex, if it's the first year, try 10 or 20 of them, see how you get on sex draws, select the cows, handle the semen correctly, and make sure you get the timing of AI. And I suppose one thing that Dennis left me with anyway is cock or no good in the second half. But look, I want to say thank you very much to Fíona Dunne. I want to, for your presentation, thank you very much, Dennis Howard, for your presentation. Thank you very much to Jonesy doing all the hard work in the background. And of course, you for coming on and listening to us here for an hour and a half. Thank you very much and good evening. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone, and good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.